concussion specialist, movement guy, performance guy in Scottsdale, Arizona. Today we're going to talk about hydration for performance and the relevance of hydration in concussion. It's getting really hot. Not really hot yet, but it's getting hot in Arizona, so I figured it was a relevant time to bring this up. So we're going to talk about what to hydrate with. We're going to talk about why to hydrate, which sounds really weird, but we're going to talk about why to hydrate. And we're going to talk about how much to hydrate and where those numbers come from, because there's some confusion around should I be drinking 8 glasses a day, or should I be drinking this, or should I be drinking that? So hydrate, why to hydrate, how much to hydrate, and why. So let's start with what to hydrate with. Hey, what's up, Lindsay? So we're going to be talking about 3 kind of big categories. But first and foremost, hydrate with water. You're a human, which means you're an animal, which means you quite literally need water to survive. I thought about it this way. There's a lot of people that don't like water. I thought about it this way. Imagine you're like walking a trail and like animals can talk. So like I was just in Yosemite. I'm walking through a trail. A bear approaches. The bear can talk, and she's like, "Hey, don't freak out. I just want to know, do you have any like Gatorade or like energy drinks or something? Because my cubs hate water." And you'd be like, "Dude, you're a bear. Like, you're supposed to drink water." Well, you're a human. You drink water as well. You're an animal as well. You should be drinking water. So the first thing and foremost, hydrate with water. The next one, hydrate with non-diuretic herbal teas. And a lot of people hear non-diuretic herbal tea. Well, what is that? Some of the common diuretic herbs would be celery, juniper, parsley, dandelion. So a lot of people might have dandelion tea is kind of the most common of the teas there. There's a lot more, but that's kind of a decent common list. And then questions about coffee. Caffeine is likely not diuretic enough to dehydrate you, but it's not something that I would try to hydrate with. So the 2 big things that I would say what to hydrate with water and non-diuretic herbal teas. Why should we hydrate? 3 big reasons that I'm going to talk about today. Temperature regulation in your body, and then performance. The nitty gritty, like science, is that like your enzymes can't fold a normal hydration environment. What about coconut water? Totally works. But your enzymes can't hold your blood, just wouldn't exist. Your blood is mostly water. You just need water. But beyond that, like what do we see? Temperature regulation. So Dr. Andrew Huberman did a talk or did a podcast. His podcast this week, he talked a ton about performance, some really, really cool stuff with the temperature of water or whatever you're using between sets can actually wildly improve performance. So he talked about that this week, but temperature regulation is huge for your performance. According to the American College of Sports Medicine, that wasn't in Huberman's podcast, but every 1% dehydration, you'll see an increase of almost half a degree of Fahrenheit. And that doesn't necessarily bring into the context your environment or how hard you are already raising your core temperature from exercise anyway. What about salt to be able to absorb more water? Going to talk about that in a second. So temperature regulation in your body, performance. So we see performance deficits. I'm going off notes here because I want to be able to crush this, but get all my points. So performance, we see performance deficits when you're looking at a percentage of body water lost. So let's assume 150 pound person, we're about 60% water by weight. So if we lost 0.5%, 1%, 2%, 3%, like what do we see happening? When you lose 0.5%, so for that 150 pound person, like you lose 0.5 pound, there's an increased strain on your heart already. When you lose 1%, so about 1 pound, you have reduced aerobic endurance, reduced aerobic capacity. You lose 3%, so around 2.7 pounds, reduced muscle endurance. You lose 4%, around 3.6 pounds. You're losing muscle strength and motor coordination. You lose 5 to 6%, and you're heading towards heat stroke, heat coma, like heat exhaustion. So those numbers, 0.5%, 1%, 2%. Most active folks, most exercising people and athletes will sweat and lose about 0.5 liter to 2 liters per hour. So I know when I was playing hockey, I could easily lose 3 to 4 pounds in a game. I would get off the ice, and if I wasn't drinking enough, or even in a practice, if I wasn't drinking enough, I could easily lose 3 to 4 pounds, which that puts me right in that 3 to 4%. Performance-wise, I lost muscle endurance, and I lost motor coordination and strength by the end of that practice. And one of the things that I saw, particularly on TikTok, is like there was a video that went viral trying to debunk the 10,000 steps per day. And people in the comments were like, hey, can you debunk 8 cups of water per day? Like, I don't even feel that thirsty. Most folks don't feel thirst until they're at 1 to 2% dehydration. So they've already got reduced aerobic endurance and they're headed towards reduced muscle strength and reduced muscle endurance by the time you even feel thirsty. So I don't know that like hashtag intuitive drinking totally makes sense, particularly in hot environments, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. From a concussion perspective, so I shared a picture yesterday. There's a little graph showing we took healthy people and we dehydrated them. So we didn't let them drink water, and then we put them on the treadmill for a little bit, really a relatively low intensity, something that I would give for concussion patients as a subsymptom threshold exercise. But we took away water, we made them exercise a bit, and then we gave them symptom questionnaires, balance, and neurocognitive testing. Healthy people, when they're dehydrated, feel concussed. They have headaches, they don't feel right, they have brain fog, difficulty concentrating, they feel concussed. So if you are a patient dealing with concussion, try not to be dehydrated. When we test healthy people, there's a difference between euhydration, so healthy hydration, and dehydration. There's a significant difference, like we could actually asterisk it on a graph in a study. Significant difference in symptom number and symptom severity. Not a massive significant difference in balance or neurocognitive testing. We will see a difference, but not enough to deem it clinically or statistically significant. But if you're a patient dealing with concussion, you already have a clinically or statistically significant neurocognitive or physical deficit, and now you're dehydrated. It's just not a good compound that you want to have. So that's kind of why we hydrate. Temperature regulation, performance deficits happen at incremental dehydration levels, which happens really quick. You've only got to lose half a pound of water, it's really easy to do by the time you've got an increased strain on your heart. So hydrate. So how much should you hydrate? I've got 2 options here, really kind of 3. Option 1, urine color. Option 2, actually crunch the numbers on like ounces or milliliters that you're going to be drinking. So option 1, urine color. I'm okay with using urine color if I actually kind of recommend it. It's a lot less stringent than trying to be like, oh, I didn't get my number of water. But I'm more okay with it if you're not taking like a multivitamin, a mitochondrial support, something with a lot of B vitamins, a B complex, because the B vitamins are going to just kind of completely crowd out. You're just going to have really highlighter yellow piss, and it's going to be really hard to tell whether you're actually dehydrated or not. So a recent 2021 study found that folks using a 7 or an 8 color urine chart, is permanent damage done to the heart if you spent a lot of time dehydrated? I actually don't know how to answer that. I'm not sure. Probably not. Our bodies are really resilient. I'm not sure that there'd be permanent damage done to the heart. When we're talking about strain, it just means that you've got to pump harder. You've got less volume to work with. It's more just like workload on the heart. Like there's increased strain on the heart when you're exercising. We just don't want to compound that when we're dehydrated. So back to urine color. Recent 2021 study found that folks using a 7 or 8 color urine chart, so there's basically shades of light yellow to kind of that like amber dark beer that you would drink. 7 or 8 shades, just how much they wanted to shade it out. And most folks, like active, like athletes, military personnel, people, they could pretty well guess their hydration status when we compared it to a urine dipstick. It was more sensitive and specific to like specific gravity versus osmolality. But regardless, they were pretty okay at guessing how hydrated they were. The note on B vitamins, particularly riboflavin or B2, you'll get flavonuria. Flavonuria is not flavorful urine. It's urine that is going to be bright yellow when you pee. So option number 2, I prefer this for athletes and for desert dwellers and people who live in really hot, dry environments. So typically on a number range, we're going to recommend 2 to 3 liters per day. So liters for Americans, you need to think in ounces. That's 68 to 100 ounces per day. And that's on top of what you're eating. We should get around 1 liter of water from our food each day. And so if you're like, wait, where am I getting water in my food? That should be like produce, fruits, veggies, whole foods have water in them. So produce is on the menu, and on top of that, you're getting 2 to 3 liters of water. Where do those numbers come from? One of the ways we can think about this is how we lose water. So every day without exercise, like don't even consider exercise, don't consider movement, don't consider the climate, the dry environment, just consider existing. We'll lose around 800 milliliters through our skin and through breathing, which is about 50% of the water we lose every day. So 800 mils through the breath and skin. We'll lose about 100 mils just from sweating, like your armpits and different areas that sweat a little bit more than others, without exercise. We'll lose about 500 mils, about half a liter we'll pee out. And then we'll lose about 100 mils in our poop every day. So every day we lose about 1.5 liters or around 51 ounces of water without exercise or climate or anything else accounted for. So you want to replete that. And again, most active folks, I don't know if I already said this, but I did, yeah. Most active folks will sweat 0.5 liter to 2 liters per hour. And so think about how long is a soccer game? How long is your gym session? Were you outside when you were doing this? Was it hot? You're probably losing more water than you think. So 2 to 3 liters. If you want to get more specific with that, if you're here in America and you're using pounds in the imperial system, divide your body weight, so your body weight in pounds, in half to get the ounces of water you should be drinking each day. So if you're 150 pounds, you're going to be drinking 75 ounces or around 2.2 liters per day. For mils for everywhere else in the world using the metric system, multiply your body weight in kilograms by 30 or 40 mils. So if you're 150 pounds, you're about 68 kilograms. 68 kilograms times 30 is around 2,034 or around 2 liters. And if you times it by 40 mils, you're going to get around 2,720 or around 2.7 liters. So again, you're right in that 2 to 3 liter range, regardless of how you're crunching those numbers. For hot, dry climates like Arizona, like where I'm at right now, you're going to add 500 mils to that number anyway. Just because we've got a drier climate, we're breathing. There's something called vapor pressure. So when you inhale air, it doesn't matter how humid or dry it is. When it leaves your mouth, it's 100% humid. Your lungs humidify it. So when we're doing that in this really hot, dry environment, you need to just drink 0.5 liter extra anyway. So that 2,034 milliliters becomes 2,534 milliliters. So rather than drinking 2 liters per day, if you're in the desert, you're going to drink 2.5 liters per day. When we bring exercise into the mix, how much should you be drinking? Ideally, you're going to drink 0.5 liter to 1 liter during the exercise, depending on how long it is. And you're going to drink 0.5 liter to 1 liter after the exercise. When we're talking about exercise, that's like less than an hour. So like 45 minutes of some intense exercise, 30, 45 minutes of some intense exercise. You're going to drink about 500 mils or about 16 ounces during that exercise. And after that exercise to maintain hydration, not get that strain on the heart, not lose aerobic endurance, not lose muscle endurance. If you're not doing intense exercise, it's moderate intensity exercise, less than 2 hours. So this would kind of be, it's kind of towing the line of the pace that I was doing for the half marathon this last weekend. As I probably should have, I didn't, but I probably should have drank probably close to 0.5 liter, maybe 1 liter throughout that race. So to get even more specific with this post-workout hydration, because I know I saw Lindsay Dreyer on here, she's an athlete, taking pre and post-workout weights. So if you're an athlete, in the locker room, there's a scale, or in wherever you're getting prepped, take a pre-weight and a post-workout weight. And for every pound you lose this is from the American College of Sports Medicine, for every pound that you lose after the workout. So again, I would lose 3 to 4 pounds a practice because I wasn't just guzzling water. So you want to, for every 3 to 4 pounds. So for every pound, you want to drink about 500 mils lost, 500 mils per pound lost. So I lose 4 pounds. I need to drink 500 times 4. I need to drink another 2 liters on top of whatever I was supposed to be drinking each day to kind of replete and get that euhydration. So Lindsay's question earlier is like, what about salts to better absorb the water? Water is really, really, really easily absorbed. It's not so much to absorb as to maintain the water and to maintain good, we've got the intracellular compartment. So about, if you think of all your water, I'm 60% water by weight. 2/3 of that water is actually inside of my cells. Only 1/3 is outside of my cells, like in my blood and all that other stuff. Most of it is in the cells. So to maintain that, we need things like electrolytes. I've got a supplement over there that I really like. I think it's called Electrolyte Synergy, or the sports certified one is called Hydration Complex, but it's the same thing. So it's a mix of electrolytes. And so again, you've got some salts that like to be inside the cell. Some salts like to be outside the cell. We use things like taurine to make sure that they kind of go where they're supposed to go as an osmolyte. So I think about during hydration and post hydration, for sure, replete with the electrolytes. I find particularly for me, it was magnesium that was really, really helpful to not get leg cramps and really just dead heavy legs after games. So electrolytes can be useful during, after. They can be useful beforehand, but if you're hydrated and you're eating normal healthy meals leading into the competition, electrolytes throughout can be really helpful, particularly for really intense ones where you're just sweating your ass off, or for really long ones where you just need to replete because you're burning through those electrolytes. So during and after, I like electrolytes, but for most people, Lindsay is a phenomenal athlete. Not to say that other people listening aren't phenomenal athletes, but you really got to be crushing it and pushing it before you need electrolytes. Most people would be okay with just water. You don't need to worry about the specific ratios and stuff like that. Just make sure you're hydrated. And then beyond that, if you're really sweating, if you're out here in the desert and you're running outside in the summer, or you're doing things like that, then start to consider electrolytes during or after. Could I talk about mitochondrial importance and what you would take to support that? That could be a whole different talk, but a really big general point before I hop off here, a really big general point for mitochondria is you can't oversimplify it. I wouldn't oversimplify it. So there's not one nutrient that's going to help. You can use things like acetyl-L-carnitine, CoQ10, different things like that. But a big general sweep is to have a good mix of B vitamins and support those B vitamins with trace minerals. Because you can't, so enzymes need an organic and inorganic cofactor to work. So that's usually a vitamin and a mineral, and that enzyme kind of unlocks and can do its thing. A lot of people will dump in a bunch of Bs. They're like, I'm taking B vitamins for energy because it's good for my mitochondria. Well, now you're pushing all that B vitamin metabolism, but you don't have the trace minerals to support all that B vitamin metabolism. And so people can kind of they'll be like, I took my methylated folate, or I took my whatever, but I still feel anxious, or my sleep got worse. You got to support the whole pathway. So that could be actually a whole different talk. But in general, B complex, trace minerals, really good combo for people. So that was that. It was supposed to be 10 minutes, went 20 minutes per usual. But that was that. Thank you for everyone who joined. I appreciate you all. And feel free to throw